Welcome to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series, brought to you by the CT Bauer College of Business at the University of Houston. We're having a conversation about work-life balance, how to navigate and overcome challenges within your career, and how to make business more accommodating to a diverse workforce.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of How Does She Do It? Our guest today is Rafa Farihah, an MIS and broadcast journalism major. Hi, Rafa. How are you?
Hi, Nora. I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. It's so nice to be here with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a junior MIS and broadcast journalism major, as you said. I transferred to U of H my sophomore year of college. Started off as an engineering major at Texas A&M. So I'm technically raised in Houston. I also lived in India for 4 years, and I was brought up in New Jersey as well, early on in my life. So I do have a variety of experiences, living in different areas, meeting different kinds of people.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about, the focus of the podcast is, of course, how does she do it? And I've learned a lot about you in the last 24 hours. So tell us a little bit about what you do here at the University of Houston, as well as your extracurricular activities and maybe some internships that you've done.
So in the past, when I transferred to the University of Houston, I came in as a business student, and I added on my journalism major. So initially, even before I started school here, I came in during the summer holidays and worked at the Daily Cougar just to get my hands on with the newspaper, get some experience before school started, and kind of familiarize myself with campus with not that many people around for summer school. And that was the summer I started my YouTube channel and personal blog. I wanted some sort of platform to put out what my thoughts were, things that happen in the world that need to be discussed, and also share with people a little bit about myself. So I started doing that. That took up pretty much most of my summer, figuring out how to use YouTube, figuring out how to use WordPress, set up a channel and a blog from scratch. I think that's where a lot of my experience came from. It was very much self-taught, and that experience helped me get an internship with Houstonia magazine. That was kind of my first experience working at a magazine, so it was print, but not the same type of print as newspaper here, obviously. So after that, I applied for an internship with BuzzFeed in New York and LA, but I never heard back from them, so I just kind of forgot about it. But during the summer, they emailed me saying that they had an extra position open up randomly. So I jumped on the opportunity and I flew to New York for the summer, and that pretty much changed my whole life. Everybody kind of asked me about that experience, and I feel like it's just opened so many doors for me, just working there and having that name on my resume. And currently, I'm interning at KPRC Channel 2 as a Houston Life intern for their lifestyle show. So, yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
That's fantastic. So you're focusing on journalism here at the University of Houston.
Yeah.
And then you've worked on print media,
Digital media.
I don't know the terminology. I'm
and
sorry.
TV.
Excellent. So do you have a favorite, or is everything great and wonderful as far as those different ways of communicating?
Well, everything is great in its own way, but personally, I like digital media a lot better because I think print journalism isn't dead, of course, but I think most of it is moving towards like online. So people read online articles, but ultimately, nowadays people don't really have that much of an attention span like they used to. So we like to watch videos if there's an option. So that's kind of where I like to get my news from. And also, more and more these days, not that many people have TVs. So they just kind of rely on whatever they see online, or there's Netflix. So who even watches TV shows on TV anymore? Exactly. I mean, other than sports, I don't really watch it. So
I never watch TV anymore. It's strictly Netflix with me, or sleep. One or the other.
Same.
So tell me a little bit about the different, I looked and you have a blog, you have an Instagram, you have a Snapchat, a Twitter, a Facebook, a YouTube. You tackle different topics like fashions and trends, traveling, anime. You met Simone Biles, apparently.
Yes, I interviewed her for Houstonia.
Oh, that's amazing. Different hacks for Ramadan, your morning routine, beauty favorites, hijab tutorials, shopping hauls, things of that nature. So how did that come about? So how did you say, I'm going to make a video about this?
So like I said, I was an engineering major, and while I was down at College Station studying my nights away, sleepless nights and everything, I had this epiphany that I just didn't think it was for me. I took one journalism class for magazine writing, and I realized that I wanted to tell stories, whether it's entertaining or maybe worldly things that might impact somebody. So that's when I started my YouTube channel and blog. And that's actually the summer that I started wearing the hijab. Mm-hmm. It just kind of hit me all at once. The change in major, a little bit more of faith, and my friend circle changed as well. I feel like it was just a complete breakthrough of like showing me who I really am. So when I decided to wear the hijab last summer, I wanted to exert my presence online by making all these social media accounts and being active on YouTube and a blog just to normalize the idea of wearing a hijab and show people a little bit of my personality, because especially nowadays with this current political atmosphere, there's a lot of Islamophobia going around. So I decided to show people who I really am and show them that there's nothing to be scared of, that I'm just like you and I'm fun, quirky, and weird in my own way. And I just wanted the whole world to see that. So that's kind of my motivation for it. And so I did hijab tutorials. I did a lot of Ramadan life hacks, and a lot of them are parodies. So it's not like hard, serious stuff to watch. It's something that you can come home and watch after a long day and kind of get a glimpse of my personality.
Mm-hmm. That's what I liked about your videos, is they were very light. They have a lot of music that a lot of people can relate to, different products, stores, different, styles and situations that a lot of people, even myself, who's not a student, can relate to. And I think it's always fun if you're having a tough day or you're working on something that's kind of draining to replenish your soul a little bit by just looking at something that's lighthearted. Yeah. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but did that help you in kind of just getting used to your new life here in Houston by just having a good time and enjoying what you were doing kind of extracurricularly?
Oh, completely. I really enjoy what I do, and the fact that I enjoy it helps with all the long work of editing and filming. It takes a long time, but since I love it, it's great. And also, since I did exert my presence online so much during that summer, it wasn't awkward when I saw somebody from high school and I just was wearing a scarf, and then I had to... Well, I kind of avoided the awkward, interaction initially of like them asking, wait, so you look different.
And you're like, obviously.
Yeah. So since they saw me online, they kind of had an idea that I started wearing it, and they kind of got used to it before they saw me in person the coming fall semester.
So it sounds like social media allowed you to showcase your evolution when you were ready to do so.
I completely agree. And it's definitely made me more confident. I'm not afraid to be weird. I can just be myself. And if I do mess up in public by saying something dumb or silly, I know there's a lot of crazy stuff that I've put on YouTube that's way worse than that. So I'm fine with it.
Yeah, as long as you're being organic to yourself and you're creating videos that you're enjoying, that's what's so important, for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
So stemming from, all your online presences and everything that's going on, of course, there's a lot of people that love your accounts. You have over 18,000 views on your accounts, especially on your YouTube page. What do you do when you face judgment and stereotypes from different avenues? How do you overcome those things? And then as a woman on the internet, how do you deal with some types of negativity?
Well, fortunately, I haven't gotten too much hate online, but I know there's a lot of other YouTubers who are more well-known or more popular worldwide that get a lot of hate. My approach to that is haters are going to hate. I think that as long as my friends truthfully tell me whether my content is good, whether I'm saying something wrong, I would actually take their advice. But as long as they support me and they kind of vouch for me and keep me like in check based on the content I'm creating, and as long as they tell me that what I'm doing is good, I'm fine with whatever people say online. I don't really care.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there is a popular saying, if you got haters, it means you're doing something right. So
I think so too. Actually, the funny thing is, the very first time I got a hate comment on YouTube, I was excited.
Yeah, it's like a little trophy, like, well done. You
I
fired
know.
someone up enough to have an opinion and to say something about it?
No, yeah, exactly. This was like a few months after I started. I was like, oh, I bet the only people watching are my friends. But then I got some hate comments, and I was like, hey, other people
reaching
are
a wider audience.
Yeah.
So it does mean that you're doing something right. And I think that, you being so authentic to yourself is such a beautiful thing. And I know that I've also heard the term that you can't make everybody happy. So that's another aspect of that for sure.
Definitely.
So actually, right now we're going to take a short pause to hear an important message. When we return, we'll continue our conversation with our guest, Rafa Farihah.
Got an idea for a startup? Red Labs is the University of Houston's co-working space, startup accelerator, and technology entrepreneurship program. Supported by Bauer's Wolf Center for Entrepreneurship, we work with UH-affiliated founders to turn your technology startup ideas into high-growth ventures. We provide free co-working space, access to mentors and resources in the startup community, and customized startup curriculum. For more information, visit redlabs.bauer.uh.edu.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast, How Does She Do It?, featuring our special guest, Rafa Farihah, an MIS in Broadcast Journalism double major here at the University of Houston. So when we left off, we were talking about haters on your social media accounts and how that can be a good thing. Can you tell me a little bit about what it's like just being a woman on the internet?
I feel like being a woman on the internet, you have to work a little harder to gain an audience and to impress people, because I feel like there's certain stereotypes about women that men don't really have to hold up to. It's kind of like a double standard. Men can do whatever they want on the internet, do stupid things, and when women do things like that, it's just like, what are you doing?
Do you feel there's more of...
There's more judgment,
Okay.
for sure.
There's more of a magnifying glass on what you do, how you do it, what you wear, how your scarf looks.
Oh,
things
yeah,
of
it's
that
more
nature.
like, what are you wearing rather than what are you saying?
I see.
Yeah.
So it's more surface level. They're looking, they're focusing on surface level content, not deep content about, those issues that you talked about earlier, those things that you truly care about. How is it being a minority woman wearing a hijab on the internet?
I feel like in that way, there's not that much negativity. It's more like appreciation.
Good.
Like, oh my gosh, there's finally somebody who looks like me that's on the internet and trying to get an audience. So people get happy because of that, because we do need more exposure in this day and age with the climate. But there is some hate when it comes to really conservative people on the internet.
Okay.
They might be like, why are you exposing yourself on the internet so much? Why don't you just, I don't know, stay at home or something? They say stupid things like that make no sense. And I'm just like, haters are going to hate, No matter what I do, somebody would have a problem. So I'm not worried about appeasing everybody.
So when it comes to your dual degree within MIS and journalism, do you think that your journalism degree will kind of take you to those levels that you want to achieve?
I think that I'm more passionate about the journalism side, but business does have a special place in my heart. I'm definitely involved in the MISA organization here on campus. I love networking. I go to the events for the professional meetings all the time. And I'm very passionate about the classes. MIS classes are very interesting to me. I never feel like it's a burden to learn something that's related to MIS. It's just so fascinating to me. And I'm also looking forward to doing internships in the business field the next 2 years of my college education. I feel like my journalism degree complements my business degree because I've talked to so many professionals out there, and they always say that there's so many people that are working in business and engineering that lack basic communication skills. It's one thing to have great ideas, but communicating them is something else. Going up in front of an audience and speaking clearly so that people actually understand what you're saying is a talent that not everybody has. And I think the fact that I am pursuing journalism as well as a technical field, it goes really well together. Since I started my YouTube and just journalism in general, at first I couldn't even interview somebody. I couldn't go on the street and ask somebody if they would want to interview for the Daily Cougar. But I've come a long way since then, and I think this is going to take me very far in my business degree as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, there's a lot of different elements in just the business world where you have to talk to people.
Yeah.
So I love your answer about just integrating both of those things. And so, I mean, of course, the title of the broadcast is How Does She Do It? So the main question of the evening is, how do you do it? So when it comes to incorporating your schoolwork and your family life, your friend life, and then your extracurriculars and your social media presence, how do you balance all those things?
That's a tough question, Nora. Well, since the moment I started all of this, well, it all starts back in the summer of 2016, where I decided to switch my whole life, my major, and start all these extracurriculars. I took it one step at a time. So I spent the summers doing my extracurriculars. So that's where I kind of laid the foundation out. So getting started always takes extra work. Figuring out how to use the platform and getting your first content up is hard. So I used that 3 months to kind of figure myself out, learn the ins and outs of it. And then during the fall semester after that summer, I joined a lot of organizations that were related to my field of study. So I kind of diversified myself in that aspect. And by that time, I already had the basic layout of my blog and YouTube channel, so I didn't have to spend as much time. So instead of taking 2 days to film and edit a video, I could do all that within 3 hours now.
Wow.
Yeah, so it just takes practice, and I just needed that initial few months for that. And then after that, I think it's really tough starting out, no matter what degree it is, because ultimately you need experience to get experience. So what I started doing before I started school at U of H was I made a LinkedIn account and wrote down all my information, had a good professional profile picture, and I added all my friends and people I wanted to get to know on LinkedIn. So the thing that most people don't really do is networking. People go to meetings and network, but networking digitally is a whole other level. You can meet people that you admire, but you probably would never get to meet in real life. So you can do it digitally. So I look at companies like, I've always wanted to work at BuzzFeed. So I would add people I admire who are doing my line of work on LinkedIn. And I'd reach out to them, message them, and say, hey, like, I'm a student here. I'm doing so-and-so extracurriculars, and I'd love to speak with you, or schedule a phone call or something. And listing out your extracurriculars is really important because they don't want to get a message from some random kid from college. But if they see that you're already pursuing or doing a lot to get where you want, they'll be like, okay, she's trying, she's helping herself, so let me help her too. So I did that a lot, and I grew my network a lot. So I think that's where I got a lot of my internships. I think knowing somebody first is a big helping hand because nowadays it's not always who has the best application. Unfortunately, it's like that, but it's more of who do you know. So you have to have a little bit of experience, and my little bit of experience was starting something on my own. So don't be afraid to get out there, figure out how to do something, teach yourself whatever you're trying to learn. Like, I wanted to learn how to interview people. I wanted to learn how to film and edit. I took my own camera, went out there, and filmed my own YouTube videos. So that's the kind of drive that people are looking for. And once you tell people that, they're willing to help you out because you've already taken that first step to get where you want to be. So, yeah, that's what I did. And building that network has gotten me the internships I got. And, of course, balancing that with my family life and friends is kind of hard because when I was first starting my first internship at Houstonia, I found myself not seeing my friends at all that semester. I would basically go maybe once or twice a month to hangouts. That's it. And I'd see them on campus sometimes, but...
In passing, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're my close friends too, so it was really hard to be away from them. But my goal was more important not than my friends, but it was important that I reach a certain level in my career before I start balancing things out a little bit, because I think the initial hustle is very important. A lot of people come up to me and they say, oh my gosh, you've gotten so far, what do you do? And I was like, I just did stuff on my own, and people appreciated that. And they're like, oh, I want to do it too, but like I'm busy doing this, and like my friend's throwing a party here and I want to go to this. And I'm just like, well, if you want to get something done, you need to sacrifice something. And after my 3 months of hustling and not seeing people, even though that sounds really bad, I needed to do that. So now when I'm at this point and I've had 3 internships already, I'm able to balance my life because I did give that initial 3 months of hustle. So that's my advice to anybody.
Sacrifice to flourish.
Yep, I agree.
Awesome. So one of my last questions for you is, what's next for you?
Oh, wow.
It's a big question. So obviously you're here at the University of Houston. You're definitely flourishing from your sacrifices, for everything that you've done, your internship at BuzzFeed, all your social media platforms, schoolwork, of course. So what's next for you?
So next, I'm looking forward to doing some business internships before I graduate. Hopefully this coming summer, I want to intern again at BuzzFeed or maybe another media company. And during the school semesters, do business internships. And hopefully by the time I graduate, I want to be working at BuzzFeed full time. So that's kind of my plan. And until then, just work on my YouTube and blog and social media, keep posting regularly once a week for YouTube and my blog. And my social media handle is at Rafa Farihah, in case you guys haven't seen that.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us today. And definitely for the listeners, please follow Rafa. She has a blog, an IG, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and she covers so many different topics. You'll definitely find yourself in a hole after like 30 or 40 minutes saying like, oh my gosh, I've watched so many videos. I know why, because it happened to me today. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Again, this has been How Does She Do It with your host, Nora Bailey, and our special guest, Rafa Farihah.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Working Wisdom podcast series from the CT Bauer College of Business, brought to you by the Working Families Initiative. The initiative aims to provide support and access for women in business school and the workforce, and to generate research that organizations can use to implement policies and standards to benefit a diverse workforce. For more information about Bauer College and this podcast series, visit www.bauer.uh.edu/podcasts.